Welcome to a new tutorial on this channel. Storms are starting to pass on the northern hemisphere, so it's time to get you ready for those really windy days, because that's when windsurfing is the most fun. When you manage to control and harness whatever nature throws at you and you try to be in sync with it, it's just the best feeling there is. We're starting into it this time with a tutorial on how to handle your gear around extreme winds, how to rig it, how to carry it, and how to get into the water safely. And in the next video, we'll get into detail about everything that happens on the water in strong wind.
So let's start with a few basics to make your life easy. Leave as few preparations as somehow possible to be done on the beach. Doing them at the beach out in the storm will cost you energy and leave room for mistakes. I'm talking about things like checking your gear for damages, tightening screws, repairs, untangling ropes, wrapping your wetsuit to the right side. Be sure to prepare and check your equipment during the calmer days before or at home. And once you arrive at the beach,
look for a parking spot close to where you can rig your gear. That way you never need to leave it unattended for too long. You want to start by bringing out your board. We do this so the rigged sail doesn't stay by itself after rigging, because it's more prone to fly around than the board.
if you're close to the beach, bring the board down to the water and press the fin carefully into the sand. Ideally, you leave the fin cover on. This is not ideal for the fin, but much better than having your board taking off. Point the nose or tail into the wind. This way the wind cannot grab under the board as easily. If you still don't feel secure enough about the board, turn it around and carefully place a flat rock or sand on the bottom of the board. You can use the fin cover as a sheet between the board and the rock. Again, not ideal for the board, but better than your board up in the sky.
When it comes to rigging the sail, you first want to make sure you get all your parts ready to rig. Adjust the boom, untangle the extension, connect the two mast pieces. Once the sail is unrolled, it's harder to keep it under control. So you want to make sure you don't have to deal with those things after unrolling.
Unroll the sail by pushing the mast through the sleeve. That way the sail won't get thrown around by the wind. The mast keeps it controllable. While rigging your sail, always keep one hand on the sail so it doesn't fly away. Downhaul your sail and attach the boom while keeping the sail low to the ground.
Once you're done rigging, attach the rig to your board. You always want to keep an eye on your gear, even when you go changing into your wetsuit. At this point, your gear is hopefully rigged perfectly well for the storm, because I still see too many people not quite rigging their gear the way it's supposed to be rigged. Therefore, we have a lot of tutorials on this channel already, but sometimes you just need someone telling you exactly what to do. And that's why I personally run more and more clinics and windsurfing experiences, but also organize them with other windsurf pros through my Surfshop Surf Center. We already helped so many people to rig their gear perfectly, reach their new personal best speeds, to make their jibes more effortlessly, or simply to have a good time on the water with like-minded people. If you don't want to miss our 2025 events, be sure to sign yourself up for the newsletter. I will link it below this video. And now, before you put on your wetsuit,
be sure to look for a wind-protected area like a bush or a bench and park your gear behind it so it doesn't catch as much wind. Careful though with cars and high walls, because they often create turbulence which can cause the wind to push under the sail from the other side.
Okay, so now you're rigged. And in a storm, even carrying the rigged gear can be a challenge. For the basics, check out our tutorial about how to carry the gear. We'll link it below this video for you.
When the wind is strong, you don't want to carry your gear on the head. It's a fragile position, and the little control you have over the gear and unexpected gusts can make it close to impossible to keep it on the head. So instead you want to keep the gear close to yourself and low to the ground. So the board you'll want to carry on the downwind side of yourself with the tail pointing into the wind. That will create the least amount of resistance in the wind and let the board sort of adjust itself to the wind direction to a certain extent.
You can hold the front strap in one hand and the back strap, or the fin, with the fin cover of course, in the other one. You want to hold them tightly, yet not fight against the wind, but instead let the board adjust itself according to the wind.
Looking at the sail, like mentioned before, you'll want to keep it low to the ground. Keep the front hand on the boom and the back hand above the boom on the mast. This is the safest way to carry the rig. Carry the rig with the mast parallel to the wind, and when the strong gusts come in, allow the mast to point slightly away from the wind.
Once you get close to the water, you'll have to attach the rig to the board. Carrying the board-rig combination is a challenge. because you can't really adjust the board the way you can do it without the rig. So you're creating a lot more resistance against the wind.
You'll have one hand on the front foot strap and one hand on the boom. Let the mast point slightly downwind instead of having it parallel to the wind. Keep the nose of the board close to the ground while keeping the tail close to your body. In very strong gusts, the wind kind of tends to push the top of the sail down. Therefore, you want to keep your hand on the boom really close to the mast and again push the nose of the board towards the sand. This allows the sail to keep an angle where the wind goes under the sail and pushes it up.
When arriving into the water, don't position yourself downwind of the gear because it might lift off easily. Always stay upwind of the gear. I once injured myself that way when I was about 14 years old because the board flew onto my head and created a big open cut, and maybe that's why I turned out a bit weird. So better stay upwind of your gear. And off you go. Stay tuned for the tutorial on how to control strong wind while you're sailing. If it's out by the time you're watching this video, we will also link it down below. We will make sure to improve your trim and your technique to control strong wind. And lastly, you can get this tutorial also written on my blog, available for all newsletter subscribers, including a checklist which you can take with you to the beach. And lastly, of course, be sure to subscribe to this channel to not miss our upcoming tutorials and adventures. See you on the next one.